I'll apologize up front. I talk fast, so that's just going to be what happens, unfortunately. Thank you all for being here today. I'm excited to talk about this topic. This is really something that's been Xcel's primary focus over the last 5 years, and being able to give kind of an overview of what we've been doing and kind of give you guys some ideas of what you might want to do at your business will, I think, be helpful as we go through the day. So Xcel Energy is a combination of 4 utilities: Northern States Power Minnesota, Northern States Power Wisconsin, Public Service Colorado, and Southwest Public Service in Texas. We have about 20,000 miles of transmission line that we manage and multiple other facilities that we have. Our pollinator program is primarily an upper Midwest focus for a couple reasons. That landscape really provides many opportunities for the kind of pollinator habitat that we've been talking about over the last day and a half. We have some major power plant land holdings that we have that are conducive to pollinator habitat creation. There's a lot of state initiatives to promote pollinators, especially in the state of Minnesota, with protecting pollinators and having pollinator habitat at solar gardens. And then we have some of the target species that people are concerned about, both the monarch flyway and, of course, the Highway 35 Monarch Highway. I was so excited to find the monarch that could fly. Let me put that in the presentation. And then, of course, we also have the rusty patch bumblebee, both in the metro area of the Twin Cities and in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where I'm officed. So right now we have about 2,100 acres in management for pollinator habitat. And this isn't all habitat that's available across our property, our right-of-ways and any property we have. This is what we're actually targeting for what we're calling pollinator habitat, proactively managing, and doing a variety of programs with. And it ranges from a 1/4 acre up to 800-acre sites. There's 44 active sites with a variety of different things that we have that I have listed up here on the chart. And we have about 8 to 12 potential sites that we're working on also. And we're working on adding sites in Colorado and Texas. And that's probably one of our biggest questions is how do we take areas in Colorado and make them conducive to pollinator habitat, and Texas, since the landscape's dramatically different. And a lot of what we talk about here with the prairies, and that just isn't feasible down in those areas. So talking about xeric landscapes and other ways that we can have pollinator habitat that's not the traditional one I think most of us talk about when we talk about the upper Midwest. So in giving kind of a history of Xcel Energy, we've had a lot of past management practices that weren't really conducive to the kind of management we're trying to go now. Vegetation management in the past was focused on tree removal. We have recently adopted IVM and been working over that for the last 10 to 15 years. And there's been some interest in projects, but there wasn't any kind of coordinated effort with my area and the vegetation management area and environmental services. Construction restoration for all our projects was, let's just use the standard state DOT mix. It's easy to get. We don't have to think, and we just throw it down after we're done and we walk away. And landscaping arborvitae is the tree of choice around all substations. How many have seen that? It's just like put up those arborvitaes, it screens it. That's easy to think about, and off we go again. And then land management was reactive for the properties that we own. We owned a lot of property, but the company committed very little time and money for managing those lands. Everything that we did was more reactive, and proactive measurements were discouraged. And I've heard some people talk about that. Well, if we manage the land, then endangered species are going to come in, and then we won't be able to do what we want with the property. And that was a lot of the mindset that most people had in the company. So what changed? About 10 to 15 years ago, we started doing more proactive land management across the company. We had management changes. We had new people come in that kind of want to do proactive work. If we're going to own the land, manage the land, we should do it proactively, because reactive management is really going to cost us a lot of money. We brought staff expertise on. I had brought in one employee who was a wildlife manager with the DNR, and we also hired another staff person that was with Pheasants Forever. So we had expertise internal to our department that was going to help us with looking at opportunities we have. And then we had a project we started with, which we call the Tyrone Lands, which is just about 30 minutes south of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which was a 4,400-acre failed nuclear power plant site that we retained and continued to manage for future use. And that's the primary area where we started working on different kinds of things to go back to sustainable landscape management. once we got done with that project, it really created a lot of positive feedback for proactive management. When we started working on the Tyrone project, a lot of people had been abusing the land. We had ATVs going wherever they wanted. People were dumping their trash. It cost us $250,000 just to clean it up with everything that we had on the property. And if I had $250,000 to spend on pollinator initiatives, that would be awesome. But unfortunately, we had to use it just to clean up the property that we had. So we got a lot of positive response because what we did was utilize agencies, tax breaks, a wide variety of things that we could manage the land in a proactive way that didn't cost a lot of money. We got a lot of public feedback on it. We brought in timber harvest revenues of about $800,000 over 5 years. And we created a lot of really good partnerships, not only with the DNR, but other people who in the past had been opposed to us building a nuclear power plant came around and gave us kudos for doing proactive management on the property. And another thing that's changed really is geospatial data and the use of geospatial tools. We all benefit so much from that. I mean, when I first started 30 years ago, I had USGS maps, a little wheel that I could roll out and then calculate what the mileages were, and it was so exciting when they had multicolored highlighters, because then I could highlight the different land covers that I thought were there. And of course, I had my 1955 aerial maps I got from the Wisconsin DOT. So, you know, what we have now versus then is just a really great improvement. So what really started us having what we call a formal pollinator initiative at Xcel Energy? It was in 2015, and 3 projects kind of hit the spotlight at the same time. There was an event with the Fish and Wildlife Service with Senator Amy Klobuchar, who's going to be our next president. Come on, vote for her. In celebration of the Monarch funding. She's a big advocate of that. We got invited to it. Our president of the company got to go, and that was really one of the things. It's like, okay, she likes monarchs. We want to work with her proactively. If we can do more of this kind of stuff, that'll be great for us. So it really was a luck situation more so than, you know, serious planning on our part that this would really help us, but it really did make a difference. The second one, which was really for me kind of the key to understanding where people in my company were, was our substation construction and maintenance crew came and said, we want to change how we're maintaining substation property. We don't want to have to mow it anymore. And we've heard about pollinator habitat. We want to try it on this project. And for me, that was really rewarding to hear them come to us and say, we want to try something different. And then we also had signed the St. Croix Valley Pollinator Partnership with the National Park Service, a variety of other partners, to try to do more proactive creation of pollinator habitat along the St. Croix Scenic Riverway. Again, all these got favorable reception from leadership, and we decided to create an ad hoc team to kind of work together and coordinate projects that the company could do. The main goal was to share information, look for opportunities, and try to figure out ways that we could create a long-term commitment at the company. So the first step was upper management sponsorship, which was me. I kind of decided that this would be something that we would sponsor out of the Siting and Land Grants group, and got support up through my management chain on let's do this and let's see what happens. And then we had appointed lead staff. At the time, it was Sage Tauber. Some of you had met in the first initial meeting. She was our primary coordinator, but she left to go to Denver and work in a different area, so I took over part of that. And then assemble interested employees from various areas. Rather than assuming, you know, we're the only ones that like it and other people in the company don't get it, you know, we kind of opened it up, and if people said they would be interested in joining us, we had them join us. And then we started sharing information of what we were doing. And the first lake substation was a project where we created the first pollinator habitat. We kind of said this is going to be a trial, because if you create, you know, 7 acres around a substation pollinator habitat, you're going to create nice habitat for chipmunks and other animals to come into the substation or create outages, and a variety of other things. So it's still a process that we're following to see what's going to happen over the long term. But we used that as an opportunity to, you know, showcase that we were doing this. We got the public involved and did a variety of things that let people know we're proactively doing this. And then our goal was to create more projects and find other opportunities on our capital projects, especially where we could provide these opportunities. And our community relations people were also very proactive on what they were doing and looking for opportunities. The budget was something that was kind of loose in the beginning. We really wanted to focus on capital projects because that's easier for us to get the funding for and really do well set up for projects that we're doing. And I set really modest O&M targets for the Minnesota and Wisconsin operating companies for the employees to think about, well, we'll spend about this much each year, so think about that as you're planning your projects. And then we set goals, high-level goals. And our top priority is always site safety and system reliability, period. Those are going to be the primary things that Xcel is always concerned about with any kind of project that we're going to do. We're going to seek to strengthen partnerships and educational opportunities. We're going to look for different businesses, other people that want to join us, and seek ways that we can build relationships with our communities. And some of this was based on my past history of trying to do projects, and we do them on our own, and we just never got consistency in how we did it. And then working with others, having people that jointly work with us on projects, they kind of fizzle out. So we were trying to, we want something that's going to get more than just us involved to make it a community-based type of situation. And then support and initiate projects that make a difference. They had to be able to support pollinator habitat, whether that's a prairie or a rain garden, or even just gardens underneath our right-of-way. And then try to find ways to support target species of concern, because that's where some of the funding could be to help us address some of the costs for the work that we wanted to do. We also wanted to invest wisely. We wanted to focus on sites with high probability of success, and I started out from day one I started saying I'd rather have 5 good sites than 20 or 30 poor sites, and we've gotten up to the point where we're saying we want more sites, but you do really want to invest your money in places you think are going to be successful, because it doesn't matter if we have 100 sites across our service territory. If we're not paying attention to them and they're not doing anything, it's really not worth the investment. See how we can start tracking to see how we're reducing O&M on our projects. Ensure that we're going to have long-term management either by us or the partner that we're working on, and again, using capital projects to assess to determine opportunities. And then trying to have clear expectations. You have to allow time for development. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a long-term process. This is 5 to 10 years to see if it's really going to work and really get the numbers of whether it's effective or not. And the business area that managed the asset had to be consulted. So if we want to do something at one of our big power plants, the director of that power plant had to approve what we're going to do. And we met with them and talked with them about it. So this is our Pollinator Sites in 2016. We used butterflies because we thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. And initially, before we started this, we really had 4 active sites within our service territory. 2 were managed by our company, and then 2 were managed by communities in the metro area. Cottage Grove and Bloomington are 2 communities in the Twin Cities that were very progressive on pollinator habitat in their communities. So in 2016, we kind of laid out what are potential sites, what are active sites, started mapping that in GIS. And then in 2019, we changed it, and we're up to 44 sites, as I mentioned earlier. We got rid of the butterflies because they took up too much space on the map. And like Joanna said, we're trying to start mapping them. We're not as sophisticated as ATC is on this yet. This is just polygons on the map, kind of showing very general information, but it's getting us to that point where we're going to be able to track more data, show exactly where stuff is. The sites in yellow are community solar gardens that the company has purchased in the last couple of years, which all are required to have pollinator habitat on them. And then everything else is a wide variety of projects that we've been working on and moving forward. I would say that the majority of sites really became active in 2018. It took a little time, but pretty soon, the map started populating more because we were starting to get traction on everything we were planning. So successes of what we're doing, and it really to one of the primary ones is education and outreach for children in the community. Getting people that are in our communities, that see our facilities, that we have visibility of these sites, having them see and getting them engaged. So when we have sites, we try to bring children in to do some planting and make it an event, get the media there, get that awareness out that these are cool things that do. And we're probably going to use the Pollinator Week events in June now to kind of make that more of a proactive thing every year. There's increased public acceptance of native landscaping. Most people want to see those beautiful green lawns, and as I mentioned, someone yesterday complained that it took them 8 hours to mow their lawn, even though they don't really have to, and get people to kind of realize that the native landscaping is another option that we can do on our facilities. Our own employees have really responded positively to this and brought up ideas and come forward, and that's been, again, it's across the board. It's not just, you think, oh, I'm the only one worrying about this, but you find it's a broader concern, and people really understand it, which I think we have a lot of the concern about the monarch habitat and what's happening with them really kind of being one of the main reasons you see that, as well as honeybees. It's increased our partnerships and strengthened our relationship with communities because we kind of have a common bond on working together on our right-of-ways through their communities to make it a better place to be. Like I said, we went from 4 projects to 44 in 5 years, which was really nice to see. So we have a lot of challenges that we still are going to have to work through. Doing native landscaping around our substations, is that really something that's going to work? You know, we're going to have the First Lake substation kind of following that and seeing what we're going to do there. We also have one up in Minot, North Dakota that we just planted 2 that we're going to be tracking. And just to see if it's going to create some of those concerns with critters coming into the substation that are going to be living in those areas. And like, you know, it's 5 years minimum to really determine if it's going to be successful, and at least that determine if it's going to have problems. Tracking and gathering information, and my most exciting thing was hearing all the things about the scorecard and ways we can track it, get that in GIS, and a consistent method of what we should track, because trying to figure it out ourselves, we're like, well, I don't know, what do we want to track? And if someone else has a guidance for us, that helps us be more consistent across the industry on what people are tracking. And then assuring the long-term commitment. I think we still have a ways to go on this. People like the media attention. People like a lot of stuff. But understanding what the long-term commitment of this is something that we want to make sure that we follow. You got the budget issues. You want to look at how you can reduce maintenance costs. And, of course, with this long-term commitment, you know, the community wants instant pretty, which you may want to knock down the black-eyed Susans, but they give you that instant pretty that first year. So that helps. And then reaching interested landowners. So we have a variety of things of future focus that we're going to do. We have education outreach. We want to work with our easement holders, partnerships, and support research. But to kind of get to things I'd like you to consider is, if you're going to have a program, what does your company really want to sponsor? You know, we haven't been as much into the research. We're more on outreach. You know, what management support do you have? Have clear expectations for your company. You know, identify a person to support and coordinate the effort, and include communications people from day one. They have been great. They're always there trying to figure out ways we can get information in the company out and externally out, and allow team members, multiple people, to have projects to move forward. And then set reasonable budget expectations and look for partnerships to help pay for what you're doing. You know, try to publicize as much as you can. Important members are your coordinator, your community relations staff, the construction maintenance people. There's a lot of people out there that really like this and want to see this happen. And be selective. Quality, not quantity, is important. And do try to have visible projects, because the visible projects are the ones people are going to remember, and keep your company understanding that this promotes a lot of goodwill and gets you, quote, free press without, you know, having it be a negative thing, but it's a positive thing. And seek out partners. And just to give you a highlight, we have monthly calls. We have a variety of members across the company citing land rights. Vegetation management is very involved in this, our environmental services, project management, construction staff, geospatial staff. We have a variety of people that come along, share information for about an hour this week and each month, and try to share information as much as possible. And it's really a more casual group. It's not as formal as one would think it would be, and it's worked out quite well. But I think we are to that point where we're going to have to be a little bit more formal. Kind of work it up to make this really kind of part of everybody's daily job. This isn't a special thing. This is part of what we do. And the sustainable landscape management is kind of what Xcel Energy does. As the course of the day goes on, we're going to do this rather than think, oh, should we do it? It's like, yeah, let's do it and let's move it forward. Thank you.
Hey, any questions for Pam?
There's one right back there.
Hey, Pam. Pam, you had opportunity over here.
Oh, hi. I'm like.
Pam.
I'm sorry. Hi, Dan.
Nice job. You had be opportunistic, and it seems like, you know, that was really key to just being, you know, luck only matters if you're ready. So, I mean, can you talk a little bit more about, like, who was it, you that was opportunistic, or how did you get and stay opportunistic to hit those opportunities?
Yeah, I was. You know, this has been a passion of mine for a long time, this kind of land management. Prairie restoration, those are the kind of things, 25 years ago we wanted to do, and everybody said, tree hugger, you don't know what you're talking about. And even myself, not, realizing there's a lot of other people out there and figuring out ways that you can have those partnerships and bring other people in, and not being competitive about it, but be working together with everybody, because we all win in the end if we're working together on the issue. So really, I helped drive it. I got to be at a point in the company in a position where I could effect change, and so I grabbed it and I did it. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question about your long-term maintenance plan, where you own the property, say, around your substations, or even if you have some fee-owned right away. What is your plan for long-term maintenance?
We're working with our employees to make sure that we have signage up on those, and we also have geospatial mapping that highlights what those sites are, and our vegetation management people are closely involved in that. One of the areas we have to do is make sure our maintenance people are aware of those sites when they go in to fix a line and working on it. But it's definitely still a little bit of a work in progress, and I think the more information we get up in our geospatial mapping and all the stuff that we're starting to share online about our facilities, and we're to the point where people are using tablets in the field. You can get the data, you have the data, and have it up front, and communicating it out. So it definitely, we don't have all of it figured out yet, but it's definitely something we're working towards.
So your construction people are bought in?
Yes, they are. They are very helpful with a lot of stuff that we do. And again, I'm talking primarily the upper Midwest. We really haven't had the opportunities in Colorado and Texas like we'd like to see. But yeah, our construction people have really been helpful. It helps that the main person we work with is my cousin. So I think one of the points is, how do we make sure this lasts long term? And it's not just based on the people in the positions they are now, but it's based on that's what we do. It's not about the person that was in the position.
Hi, what was on one of your slides? What was the solar garden?
There's a program in Minnesota called Community Solar, and a variety of companies come in and they build community solar gardens, and our customers can subscribe to those. And the majority of those are owned by other people, but we have 13 in Minnesota that we purchased. The developer and us came to an agreement that it would make more sense for us to own those specific sites. They still manage them. So it's a new program that we're in. We have a few solar gardens and probably more solar down in the Colorado area. But these are all small sites throughout Minnesota, and part of what the requirement is to have pollinator habitat on those solar garden sites. So those are new, and we still have to work with those to figure out, are they successful? We say we're going to have pollinator habitat. Okay, in 5 years, what's that supposed to look like to ensure that we're actually, living up to what we say? And a lot of people don't like them. Okay, thank you.